So I thought I would just make this small video, go through maybe some of the vulnerabilities that were present in the system that you're given, and I will also show how to complete the hashcat one and get root access to the virtual machine. Yeah, I think those two. So let me just boot up Kali. And if you're wondering, I just came from a Christmas party, so I have this terrible Christmas shirt on. So if it's too distracting, you can probably just put something over my camera or something. But let's see. The machine is up. This is gonna go quite quickly, so I don't really feel like using a lot of time on it, to be honest. So the IP address of the machine, if I'm not mistaken, is 192.168.202.143. Yeah. So the first thing you had to do was to do an nmap 202.143. And if you did that, you would get these ports, 21, 22, and 80. So FTP, SSH, and port 80. So the vulnerability. Some of you thought that the vulnerability would be in FTP, but it's not. It's in the web server. So the first thing you have to do is to actually just scan all the ports, because the assignment said to discover all the services the server was listening on. It was listening on port 80 and 22 and 21, but also on this port right here. So this is a non-standard port, so it's not part of the 1,000 most common ports in Linux or in general. So this was just a web server. I'm not gonna go into it right now, but if we start by going to port 80. So for you guys who did the Mr. Robots CTF, you know that there's a file called robots.txt. This is mainly created for browser or search engines and stuff. Well, I added a pretty good hint in this robots.txt file, where I said that you could use the URL /index and then cmd and then point to a local command you could run on the server. Oh, I have to pause for a second. There we go. So you could run a local command, which means that I can go like this. I can copy, let's see, this index, just paste it in right here, cmd. If I do ls, you will see that it runs the ls command locally on the system. So if I do cat/etc/p_passvd, which is the password file, or not password file, but it's all groups and users and stuff, it outputs that to the screen, which means that we can run, we have remote code execution. So the next step then is to create a netcat listener. Added some hints right here about a cat or something. One is listening to the other, I don't know. But we will create a netcat listener. So let's do that. Let's take this. So the first thing we need to do is to set up a listener. So nc lvp for listen verbose ports, and then add a port 9009 is fine. And then we need to, let's see. Yeah, now we need to create a command that will call back to our listening port. So we will use netcat here as well. In the Mr. Robots file, I can just decode this. I pointed to this URL encoder. So what the URL encoder does, it actually removes like spaces and special characters and stuff that the browser has a hard time handling. So what I've experienced is sometimes when you add spaces and special characters to the URL bar, things can sometimes get like a bit messy. So by using a URL encoder, you get past a lot of that. So it's not, I don't think it's super necessary to use it, but I very often use it just to get past a lot of the faulty things you can get if you don't use it. So it shouldn't hurt anyway. So this is netcat. It will spawn a shell and then connect to my local calling machine on port 9000. So let's just encode this, copy this, and just paste it in. And now I should have a listener. So look at that. So, but we are not root. So if I do who am I, you can see that my user is VVV data, which is the web server user. So I don't have a lot of privileges for it. Next up is to find the SUID. Like if you did this in a proper pen test, you would have to figure out that this was the vulnerability. I know that this is a vulnerability. But if you did the Mr. Robot VM or the, I think it was Rick and Morty one, you would need to do the exact same thing. So just copy, paste this. This will look for setuid files. I'm not going to go into setuid files because you've been through it before and we've talked about it, and you've gone through it in the Linux module and sec module and this module. So I'm going to presume you know what that means. But basically it's a... okay, let's just go find... oh, I have to do some changes because it's not in the bin directory. So I'll just write it down. So slash and just do perm for the permissions I'm looking for. So it will look for all the files with setuid enabled. And look at that. As you can see, I found a lot of these. Right now, what you would do if you're not sure what to look for, you would just Google these and see what you could find. You could also go to a site like the one I have right here. Like I know it's Python, so I have it ready, but let's just... I think I can just go like this. Hopefully it doesn't crash. Did. This then. Perfect. So if you find a binary, if we set UID, click on this and we can look for a binary we can use. If you can find any of these right here, you might be able to use them to gain privileges. It's not surely possible, but it's likely that you can use it, especially if you have like special software, not special software, but like third-party software that is installed afterwards. You can very often use them. But yeah, we looked for Python. So Python, let's just go up to the top and just search for Python. We have a setuid right there. So if we run this, we should, in theory, spawn a new shell, and then some parameters are added. Sh shell. So if I go with this, paste in, who am I? You can see I'm a root. So now I have full root privilege. So I haven't really added anything more to the VM than this, but if you got this, superb. So I know that some of you just used the FTP credentials and logged in directly through VMware. Now, I will have an issue with that because you're not exploiting a vulnerability. You're just logging in with the credentials you found. So that doesn't really count. But if you did half of that assignment, say you logged in through VMware and then you found the setuid, you will still get like half the points. I'm not gonna yeah, you're still gonna get some points, but you will not get a point for exploiting this specific vulnerability, the CMD one. But if you find the setuid and spawn a root shell, you will get half the points, or at least points for that specific thing. But okay, then let's also do the hashcat one. It's quite quick. So I have the, let's see, there of course, I have the folder right here that you got. It's the same folder. So I have the hashcat binaries, I have the hashes, and I have the word list. So let's just go into hashcats, the hashcat folder of that, and hashcat.exe. Then we will have to specify the hash. it's MD5, so it's M0. And now let's just, I wonder if it's easier for me to just go like this. Hashes.txt, since those are the hashes, and also the same with the word list. So it will start, and it's already finished. So I got 27 out of 32. Now let's try to get more. So let's do -r for a rule set, and do rules / and rock you 3000 rule. You can also use dive and stuff. Like, I think most rules, or maybe not most, but a lot of different rule sets will work, since I didn't change the original passwords that much before I hashed them and added them to the word list. But let's see. We now got 31 out of 32. So one is still missing. So this is probably the most tricky one, because I very specific, when I wrote the assignment, I was pretty specific in the way I asked the question, because I started by writing like crack all the passwords, but then I had to change it to find all the passwords. So what you will need to do is actually to go like this. So you type minus left. You could also just manually go in and see what hashes was found, but in Hashcat you have a function you can use minus left to see what hashes are left, which means that like what hashes was not Hashcat able to crack. So this hash was uncracked. This is the only one. What I do then is just paste it into Google, and voila, there we go. Let's paste it in one more time, and we can see it right there. So then we will actually need to take this. Oh, that's the wrong terminal. Just open the word list and just add it. Save it, and then go back to the CMD terminal. Oh, remove left. It will go through the same thing, and it will probably take like, oh, there we go. Look at that, 32 out of 32. So the last one was probably a bit annoying, but it's we've already been through like hashing and stuff, so yeah. So if you got all of them, very good job. So I think that's it. 12 minutes, not bad, I think. So I'll see you later.